That's beautiful.
In 1995. This is my wife. I painted one day. She was just sitting there and took a drawing of her, and I just painted her.
So you painted this before you actually opened the restaurant?
I opened, yes. It was opened in 1995. 1996. The rest of this was painted in 1995. Yeah, and but all the other ones, they were painted after that. And unfortunately, it rained today, so you cannot see it. You have to come to the studio to see it. But all the other paints were painted in 2005, 2006, 2007. This one, so 10 years later.
So this is a good way for your customers to get introduced to your art.
Art, so a simple way of painting and to show them what we're all about. Basically, it's about art. I mean, art is part of our life. So I don't see how we'll be able to live without art, without music. You know, I mean, it would be very difficult. The art for me was more like a necessity to complete my life than a necessity to make a living of it. So I never saw it as something I can make money from it, or I should do it to make money from it. I'm not the starving artist. I never thought I want to be the starving artist and paint and then become famous in the end of my life. I never wanted to do that. So I decided to become an interior designer. I was born in Africa, in Tunisia. My dad used to work for the Minister of Interior, so he was a cop. I couldn't have what I wanted. I couldn't have a bike when I wanted when I was young. I could not have a pair of new shoes when I wanted. So there were a very difficult time for me when I was young. I decided to engage in making a living on my own. So I left my family when I was 13 years old.
Was there anything that
Made me move?
Prompted you? That's really young.
My dad was very rough. He came to a point where he became too rough. It's not he was bad person. I think he was more, you know, when a man, and I understand that today because I'm a man and I have 5 children, and I can put myself in his shoes. There is nothing worse than a man, when you have a family, not to be able to provide to them what they want. I can feel his frustration. I can understand what he went through when we were young. We were 6 brothers and sisters. So, and my dad his salary was $250, just to give you an idea.
$250
Yeah.
a month? Or?
A month.
A month?
And so with the $250 a month, you have to pay the rent, you have to feed the 6 children, you have to send them to school, you have to buy his clothes. So I'm sure he must have been going through a lot of psychological problem. So his frustration was taken out of us because we were the one in front of him, we were the one who causing that stress, and directly, not because he didn't love us or he didn't care about us, it's just because I think he could not provide to us what he wanted to give us. He made me strong when I was young. So I pulled out and said, you know what, I'm ready. I can take off and I can take care of myself. So I landed in Marseille with 50 cents in my pocket. And that's how I started my life.
And by yourself?
By myself. So I was homeless for 1 year. And I was doing jobs right and left. So when you go back to what I told you earlier, why I didn't want to be a starving artist, because I already been there. I lived it with my family. So I didn't want to continue in that path. So when you have the background, your ambition is so big, there is no limit what you can do in your life. So I took that as my self-education things, my street smart things, they call it. And I made a life of it. So I decided to do something else. I decided to make money. And I made a lot of money through my life.
So what was the first benchmark or first thing that I think empowered you or made you feel like you could take care of yourself, or you progressed from being homeless?
I used to go to the builder, the contractor of all this job site, and I used to ask him to hire me to clean the job site in the end of the day. So I used to go at 5, 6 o'clock at night after everyone finished their shift, and I used to clean those buildings. But it was very inexpensive. I used to charge them maybe like $10. But I used to work the whole night. $10 at that time was maybe nothing for the builder, but for me it was like $100 today. When I moved to France when I was 13, I told you, one day I was in the park. I had 4 guys jumped on me and beat me up. They beat me up so hard. I will never forget that. The same day I went and I subscribe to a kickboxing and a karate club. So because of that, I become very disciplined. When you do martial art, the key element to become a martial artist is to be disciplined, meaning you have to come in time, you have to listen, and you have to keep doing the same thing again and again and again and again and again till you do it in a certain way. It's not your fist who's hitting, it's your whole body who does that movement. So that's called self-discipline. It's not like you're not controlling your strings, you're controlling your whole body. And your whole body makes the strength of the kick. So I learned the discipline. That discipline allowed me to do anything I want in my life. I like to be challenged. I like to challenge myself. People can challenge me, but I like to challenge myself. Am I capable to do it or not? If I am, let's try it. Like today, an example, if I wanted to make sure I keep my weight down. So as you get older, it's not the same to keep yourself in shape and all that. So you have to challenge yourself to be able. My wife can tell me, hey, you need to exercise, or you need to be careful with your cholesterol. My doctor can tell me that, but if I don't say to myself I need to do it, it doesn't work. I smoked for 26 years, 2 packs a day. I used to drink 10 espresso a day. I stopped drinking espresso, I stopped smoking at the same time. That's self-discipline. When I came here, I told you I was making money in Europe, so I came with money. A week after I moved to LA, I opened the biggest nightclub in LA called Paris Boom Boom, which is today is called Social, and before that was called the Hollywood Athletic Club on Sunset and Wilcox. That was my club in 1996. We used to have 3,500 people on Friday and 4,000 people on Saturday. You just open it a week, I invested what, maybe $20,000, $30,000. I was making the double of it in one night of what we put in, because the cover charge. So when you go into that field as an owner, not as a designer, it's completely different things. So you have access to drugs, you have access to women, you have access to alcohol. So it was so easy. I thought, oh, everybody does it in the 80s. Why can't I? I'm a very confident guy, I can try that. So I tried it, and I liked it for 6 months. So I was doing coke, like everybody else in LA. It was the things to do. It was the hip things to do, was to do coke in town. After 6 months, I was doing so much of it, I realized I was losing control of myself, because I wasn't in control anymore. Because I find it like, oh, I needed more. I was doing more I wanted to do. That's when I said to myself, that should stop. And one day, after partying the whole weekend on Saturday night, doing coke all night after the club, my house, or my place at the time, or a friend of mine's place, I take my car and drive all the way to the beach. It was maybe 6, what time was it? It was maybe 6:30 in the morning, and I could see the sunrise was behind me hitting the water. And it reminded me of my youth when I was young, because I was born in the place where there was a beach. We used to go every morning all the time. And when my dad and I, we used to have problems, I used to go and sleep in that beach. And I used to always love it in the morning when the sun rises. So remind me, it clicked back in my head, and it reminded me what I came from, who I was. That just a little moment, the sunrise, hitting the beach, took me back 14 years ago. And I said, what am I doing? For 6 months, I forgot who I was and where I came from. And at that precise moment, I stopped. And I never touched it again.